All right, folks. So let's get started. Thanks once again for coming in for this, episode of Code Vipassana. Now, before we get down to things like deterministic function calling or what exactly we are going to be running out today, let's understand the problem that we are trying to address, why it's important, why just a few examples, and then we'll kind of dive into what really goes on behind the scenes if we want to make some of these things work with modern day LLMs. And of course, then we're going to be going on to the code lab. So without much delay, right? I mean, let's just consider this question, which I'm putting out here. And it's a straightforward question, right? What's the area in Mumbai with, or anywhere for that matter, with a pin code of so and so? So if you give this to your LLM, what do you think it may respond? Any kind of guesses? Let's put that in the chat. I'll look at it. So I'm just looking at two screens. So here's a question that's going to be sent as a simple prompt to your LLM, the foundational model itself, no tuning, nothing, just let's say even the latest Gemini models for all you care. What do you think will come out of this? Like if you say, what's the area in Mumbai with a pin code of 101? Any guesses from anyone? Area names, it will name it. Or let's put it this way, would it name it correctly, or would it probably keep changing its answers or things like that, right? So let's for a moment just assume that it's going to give out something, but let's see what it does actually in reality, right? So I'm just switching my screen right now to Vertex AI. So this is Google Cloud Console. I'm inside Vertex AI. And let's say from Vertex AI, I'm just going to go on to the Vertex AI Studio. Maybe try Gemini, that's fine. And we can, of course, I just had my prompts already saved, so I'm just going to go out there. So here we are. I'm in Google Cloud Console. I am in my project. I'm in Vertex AI Studio. I'm in, just trying to give this particular prompt. As you can see here, one of the latest models we could pick up, not a problem. And if we fire this question as is, what do you think it gives? So I'm just hoping that my screen is okay. So it says Churchgate. This is obviously, wrong. If you kind of look this up answer, let's try again, right? And see what that does. Now it's saying it's Bandra West. Let's send the query again. Again, it's got Churchgate in place. Now it's saying Fort Mumbai with some kind of stuff, right? So the point really is that, if you just look at the LLMs that we have today from any company for that matter, like in our case, it's the Gemini models, but you will find that if to the foundation model, you're going to be asking things which probably, it tries to make up, it tries to probably, just give you the answer because it needs to complete something, but it may not be the correct answer. It may also not be what's typically known in LLM lingo as, grounding. Like, is it grounded in actual facts, right? Is another question to ask. The other thing is, what if you actually take this over to maybe your own applications? That can be LLM be interfaced with your APIs, with your actual data, and be able to answer questions from there. Now, if you just look at this currently, right, again, if we just submit this whole thing, it's going to come back again with something, it's trying to complete out here. A very quick way that you could possibly ground this, right, is if you come across something called Google Search Grounding, which we recently introduced in, Vertex AI. So if I just am over here, you will see something in advanced, and you will see this thing called enable grounding, right? If you just sort of enable it, and you can ground it either on, like when you click customize, it says, is it on Vertex AI search or is it on Google search? Vertex AI search obviously that's another service. It will mean you've kind of built out those embeddings, but for the moment, we'll ground it on Google search, which means it should now take your query, interpret it, hit some Google search, and actually, give you some facts from there. So now I'll just save this. And the same thing when I now submit, right, is going to say, it's Kandivli East, which is what it is. If I keep submitting this stuff, you know, it's probably going to just hit that same thing. It's grounded and it's giving you the correct answer. Now, again, if I just go back for a moment and I say don't ground it and submit it, maybe it gives something weird, which it shouldn't have. Again, church gate. So you can see it's now again gone back to its old behavior. So the whole idea is, right, is that we need that when you're talking to LLMs, apart from the general information, you might want to even connect it to your actual data, to your APIs, maybe to your data sources, and get the information from there. But LLMs probably don't have information on them. So let's kind of see, that's the whole premise of today's lab. Again, going back to the presentation for a moment. So obviously, we were on this slide. We kind of understood what the problem is about in a simplistic way. But let me sort of bring about this scenario. What if you had an application where you're providing the APIs, you've written it on your own, and you want an LLM interface to, like the user should be able to ask questions. And ask questions like what? So for example, let's say, what's the address for my warehouse, W1, or give it some ID. Or what's the current inventory for this product P1 in a certain warehouse? Or what's the inventory for P1 and P2 in warehouse, so and so. Or even, the next level of questions. Do we have more of P1 or we have more of P2 in warehouses? Even something like this, right? How much of a total inventory do you have? So you see I would say, how powerful this could actually be, because you might have created a very simple API that just tells what's the warehouse address given a warehouse ID, and an API that also gives you the inventory given a product ID and in a particular warehouse. But if you had an LLM interface to it, the limit to the kind of queries you could possibly combine is what you're seeing the variance. It's not just about how much of X or Y I have in warehouse, ABC, but it's also, do I have more of this, or do I have more, or could you give me a distribution of P3 product in all our 10 warehouses or something like that, right? And you can see that it starts becoming very powerful. But the question is, and maybe you understood now, how is the LLM going to know where is our inventory API? Because it has no idea about it. When Google, or for that matter, any other company with its foundational models have trained their models with data, they probably have no idea about my API, my warehouse API, my inventory API, things like that. But the point is, you want to combine the beauty of the whole NLP processing that a LLM can provide to users with your actual, APIs. So that whole lab, when it is called deterministic, the word deterministic, it's like, can I kind of ground it? Can I kind of lock it so that it answers questions by probably, knowing something about where it could possibly get the answers from? There are some few catches out there, right? So far, are you okay with what we are trying to do? Maybe a show of hands. Where we are going with this whole puzzle, right? So let's sort of understand that, okay, given that we need to interface it to our APIs, backend systems, the questions still remain. And these are the two fundamental questions that you need to ask to better understand this topic, right? And the first question is, how is the LLM going to know which tools or functions or APIs, just use any word that you like, but typically you will find this terminology around, is it tools, is it function tools, is it function calling, whichever way. But the point is, how is a foundational model going to know that what are the tools which are possibly going to help it to answer those questions that we are going to be asking of it? So that's one, right? And the second, which is the most important one, is that if I'm able to give information to the LLM in some way, right, will it be able to invoke the tools? Hey, it's just a REST API call. It's just maybe a function call. It should be able to call it or not, right? Will it do all that hard work, or is there some more catch to all this, right? So what do you think the answer could be to the second one? Maybe suppose if I tell the LLM, here's my API, here's my endpoint, here, this is the method, these are the parameters to call. Do you think it is going to be able to call? or is it going to be leaving it up to us, is really the question. But again, that's what the whole premise is around function calling. And just in short, if I have to answer these two questions, then I'll bring up a more detailed diagram later. The LLM is not going to know anything about our tools until we tell it, right? So we have to provide all the definitions to an LLM when we are sort of creating, the interface to the model or instantiating the model and connecting to it. We have to give all of that information. Secondly, it's not going to invoke the tools or the functions to us. All it's going to do is it's going to say, hey, you told me there's some API. This is the query that this is the prompt that you asked. I think it will be fulfilled by this function by calling it with these parameters. That's all it's going to give back. So it's going to leave the onus on calling the tool or the function back to us in the calling program. Then we call the API, we get the results, we again pass it back to the LLM, and then possibly it can answer questions like what you were saying, which is that, hey, what's the total of product P1 in 2 of my warehouses? Then maybe it can do that intelligence on its own, but the onus of invoking the core APIs is going to be up to the calling program. So how does this all work? It takes a while sometimes to really wrap your head around all of this, but it goes something of, in this particular nature. Just try to understand it a bit, right? So read this, flow diagram or whatever you want to call it from the left. So the user is giving a prompt that, what's, let's say, the weather in Mumbai today. Now, that's step one, right? Just follow those ones and twos and all that stuff. But the application now will say that, look, I'll take your prompt as is, that's to prompt, but I will also provide information on what APIs possibly can give you the information. So maybe you are creating one mega, agent which helps you with weather, with traffic conditions, with maybe, where are some of the events happening in the city. Maybe you have some 5-6 kind of things that this agent can answer. So you're going to have those 5-6 kind of tools or 5-6 kinds of function declarations or 5-6 kinds of APIs that you're going to pass to this model in part 2. So along with the prompt, you're passing all the information that the model can have to invoke that for you. But what the model is going to do is it's going to analyze, it's going to map it and say, hey, I think it's going to be this get weather API or get weather function that you sent it to me in 2, and here are the parameters to invoke it with. So it actually gives you back only what you need to call in step number 3. Finally, you see in 4 and 5, right? That is a call you have to make as part of the application. Get back the response. So you may get the current weather in Mumbai is maybe 30 degrees or something like that. But that answer you give back in step 6 to the model, and the model then composes something and gives you back 7 and 8, right? So just going back to this slide, and that will help you understand the code also later on, is you have to tell the tool everything that it needs to know to answer those questions. So basically, you're going to give the function declarations or the API information to the tool. The tool will only do a sort of a mapping and say, okay, it looks like this function could do it. Here are the parameters to pass to it. So it will tell you what to do. You make the calls, you get the data, give it back, and then the LLM finally answers it. Now the question is, if I go back to this stuff which I was asking, right? This particular, the last one which you see, what's the inventory for product P1 and P2 in warehouse W2? Or if you take the weather one, I could say, what's the weather for Mumbai, Bangalore, and Delhi right now? Now, what happens is it going to be one call? Maybe not. Is it going to be 3 calls that you need to make? Maybe. Is it 3 calls in sequence that you need to make? Maybe. Is it 3 calls in parallel that possibly you can make? Maybe. So you see the complexity that comes out here. If you say, what's the weather in Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, the model is just going to come back and say, you need to call the get weather API with Delhi parameter. After you give back the response, it will say, good. Now you need to call the get weather API with Mumbai. Then again, you do the whole thing. Then again, it will say, yeah, one more time, you need to call with Bangalore. And then it kind of says, I think I've got all the information I need, and it gives back the response, right? So it does take a while sometimes to kind of understand this whole thing. But remember just a few things is you need to provide information to the tool, and you need to make the calls to the whatever be the respective API that kind of fulfills that. The model is just going to be a way by which it will map the intent to the tool and tell you to invoke the tool and give it back what you got back from the tool. It's not going to make calls for it. So before we jump on to the lab, right, I'll just want to maybe just quickly demonstrate something to you before we do the actual lab. Then the lab will become very clear to you. So where am I? Okay, so I'm in Google Cloud Console. Hopefully I have not lost my connectivity. Okay, that's good. And let me go back to, okay, so this is my terminal in any case where I'm there. Sorry, this is not my terminal, and it just looks a weird bit like this. So I am in, Cloud Shell. I'm in the respective editor, etc. And before we go on to the lab, just wanted to maybe just highlight how this whole thing is kind of getting done, right? So let me know if the code font is a little bigger. It's fine. This one, you want it still more? It's okay. All right. Okay. So I mean, doesn't matter whether you know Java or whether it's Python or whatever it is, just go with the flow that I'm giving out here. So again, this is the main part. I'll just comment this part, and you can see I've just put various kinds of queries, like how much of P1 is there, how much of inventory. Now again, this is not something that an LLM knows in any case. Now to keep it simple, all I have is at the end, I'm just going to scroll down over here. I've created some two dummy APIs. One is a get warehouse details. It gets the warehouse and just gives you back some dummy address. Similarly, there's another inventory API that says, given a product ID and a location, I'll just tell you that there is some number of inventory for that product. Nothing great, but instead of some backend API, I've just created two local methods so that you get the idea. So we have two basically functions or two basically tools out here. These are internal here, but these could well be making external calls also, as we'll see in the lab. So how do these things get done, right? So for example, if you see over here, now I will just get down to the main thing. First thing I need to do is, of course, I'm initializing my Vertex AI thing with the project ID location. But as I told you, you have to define the tools and give that to the model. So as you see over here, I'm actually defining the tools as per OpenAPI spec. So I'm actually saying, hey, I've got one function called get inventory count, and it gives you so and so. Please give good descriptions because this helps the LLM. And I'm saying all it requires is a product ID and a location ID. That's it. And given that, it will go and probably, that's enough for it to answer something like get the inventory count for a product ID in a given location. Similarly, I have another function that says get me the warehouse details, etc., etc. So I'm just creating a list of tools. I've got some safety settings. And as you can see over here, when I'm creating the model instance, I'm actually giving it what tools, that it needs to know about. So this is basically the list of APIs that I've provided to it. Once that's done, right, we'll get into the, don't worry about the code right now, but basically we are opening up a chat. We are just saying what functions it may give back. So just if you want to see, this stuff executing as a short example, then we'll straight away go to the lab. Just look at maybe this thing which I'm commenting out right now. That just tell me where warehouse W1 is located. This ideally should result in the LLM telling me that, hey, I need to invoke this get warehouse details, and then we'll invoke it and all that stuff, right? So let's take this, maybe we'll just run this. Don't worry about the errors. Now let it run, and then I'll show you what all happened. And sorry about all these weird colors, but I tried my best with it. So basically I'm running the code, and this is the user provided prompt, right? The first one, which is that where is the warehouse W1 located? Now see what happened. When we gave it to the prompt, to the model, the model came back saying, hey, I don't have the answer for you, but you will need to make a function call to this method get warehouse details using a key or a parameter called location, and look, it extracted out this value for me. As a result of that, in my code, I am going to go ahead and call this method. And when I get the method, I'm going to get back something from the function, which I'm giving back to the model, that I've got this, take it back. And it says, okay, this is good enough. And then it gives me back the answer. It extracts it out. You see how it worked. Now, look at something different. I'm going to go and from those messages, just maybe comment this one and look at this. Now, in this case, right, it's clear that I'm saying, give me 2 products. So basically 2 times the function should be kind of invoked, but the model should give us that, right, in some way or the other. So let's see if, sorry, I'll just run this here again. And let it run, and then I'll kind of scroll. So this is the prompt, then it's again going back and see what it's done now. So what it's done is we are asking this prompt that how much of P1, P2 is there in warehouse. It says first go and call this inventory method with the warehouse ID and product ID. Then we are invoking it. We are getting some data, as you can see over here. Then we are giving it back. Then, but it again comes back. See, saying now call it the next time, but with the other product ID. So we again call that. We again give back, and then it's able to combine an answer and saying, okay, we've got this and this of this much and this much of P1 and P2 in warehouse W10. So hopefully you understand really where this whole thing is going, and how you can basically combine tools and let the model kind of tell us which function to call, then we do the needful. Because once the model tells us what to call, is completely up to us how you want to do it. So going back to the whole thing, that's what the code lab really ends up doing, which we'll start now, which is that what it's going to do is there is a external, geo API, and what it does is given latitude, longitude, you can basically pass some latitude, longitude, and get back an address from it. Now, this obviously the LLM may not have the right information at times on it. That's why you're going to be using the Google Maps geocoding API. So again, this is a tool. In step 2, that's the tool, the function that we'll be defining. But when we give a prompt, we'll just say, here is some latitude, comma, longitude, and it goes to the LLM. The LLM says, hey, you need to call the geomapping geocoding API. We call it, and then of course, once we get the response, we can pretty much do then maybe just continue with that conversation in a loop like what I showed you, or what the lab does is it just invokes the model with some completely new prompt itself, vis-a-vis some formatting. So that is also perfectly possible. So this is what we're going to do in the lab. So let's switch over to the lab now and begin, with me. So I'm going to go to this lab. This is where I am. Is everyone with me now on this? All okay? All right. So what we're going to be seeing, as the lab says, right, and which was there in the slides, is that again to reiterate the thing, right? I mean, of course, these folks, so means the AI models are good at understanding responding natural language. But if you need some precise outputs, if you want to ground it, if you want to talk to your backend, then obviously it doesn't have information. So you'll be lucky if it says, hey, I don't know about it, but it will be worse, as you saw, where it will start to bluff and just give out some answers. So that's obviously what you don't want. So we've got this functionality in Gemini called function calling. You will find this functionality even in other prominent models. It's typically called function calling itself, but here we'll see Gemini's function calling implementation. So it basically allows you to deterministically control the elements. So remember, it's not about, at times people say, what's the big deal? I could have written a chatbot without Gemini, which knows how to talk to an API. And it's able to understand when I say, what's my quantity of this product in this, right? But you have to understand that the power comes in when you combine I would say, the intelligence that an LLM has with the data that you're providing. So if it's your real data, you could potentially even ask different kinds of queries. For example, you could just say that, get me P1 to P10 all inventories, or for example, you could say, I'm here, this is my address, go get this geolocation, geomapping address, and maybe tell me that this, whatever it could be, right? You could, am I in the same state or not? Is this lying in my locality? You could potentially ask very different kinds of questions, and it could give that to you. For example, you could just say, hey, in which warehouse from these 5 do I have the most of product ID 1? Something like that. Maybe you never designed in your API, right, in the first place. You just design an API to say, give me P1 and warehouse, and I give you quantity. But you never did any kind of analytical thing which could have been built on top, which the LLM might be able to answer. So that's where the real power comes in. Sometimes difficult to get it on the first shot, but this is an extremely powerful feature. So as the lab indicates, we're going to be taking in lat long. We're going to be calling an external function, and then, of course, do something with that. So again, this is all a similar description, but remember, as we discussed in the slides, you have to define the tool, or you have to define the function, and then give that to Gemini to use in order to sort of map it to the intent. So that's the first step here, that I'm in step 2 here, that these are the tasks you need to complete. So obviously, first step, you have to define the functions, right? So you have to say, here's my function name, here's my parameters, here is mandatory ones, and describe the parameters, describe the function well, because that is what's going to be used by Gemini to understand if what you're asking, is it related to the tool. If you don't tell it what is done, for example, instead of get address, you want to call the thing saying, get my function or something like that. So probably it's not going to make sense, not from this, but there's also a description field. So be as descriptive as possible, be as precise over there, so that Gemini can actually map what the user has asked, right? And do that. So you could have even said, like, give me the address, or given a lat long. So you can just say this function helps you to get the address given a latitude and longitude, and that's kind of enough. The rest of the understanding will be filled in, but be precise in description. So once you've defined the functions, you need to put them into a list of tools, because as I told you, you could just not have one tool. You may have many APIs, many things that you're doing. So create this set of tools for Gemini, sorry. And then third is, start making your calls. And if Gemini determines that there is a function to be called, it will let you know. So it's going to be the orchestrator, right? So it will tell you, okay, now call this function. When you give back the response, it will say, this is okay, but not yet enough. So now you call this. Or it will say, okay, I've got all the info, good enough. I'll combine it into a response and give it to you. So that's the orchestration, basically, it does. And of course, if I again look at another kind of a diagram that's given out here, right? The way you want to read this again is, the user gives a prompt, and along with the prompt, we are filling up the functions and giving it to the LLM, the Vertex AI 1.0 Pro, or it could be 1.52. Then the LLM gives back an orchestrated output, possibly with APIs that you need to call. That's why you make the API call, you get a response, and you give that back to the LLM, which gives you back the final output. So that's how it goes. So basically, we are going to be creating a function that has all this magic inside of it, right? So it's something that goes like this. So if I am in, oops, where am I? Okay, I'll just clear this. I'll just put this out here, which folder I am in. So Gemini function calling, okay? And okay, here you go. So as you see over here, right, before we write the function, this is what we're going to be doing. So gcloud functions call, don't worry about it. We're just calling the function. But you see the data we are passing at the end. We are just giving the latitude and longitude, right? We're giving this, which behind the scenes will give it to Gemini and say, this is the lat long. What can you do with it? And obviously to Gemini before, we've given a tool that says, if something like this is there, please, tell me to invoke the geolocation API thing, and it will give you back, you invoke, and it gives you back a response. So maybe sometimes I'm just going to run this so you get some idea about it. Because then we are also telling, go ahead, get the information. So I think it then probably pick up a few things here. So it will just tell you then that, okay, it's formatted in a certain way after it got back the data. But don't worry about this right now. What we are going to be doing now is going back to the lab. I'm on step number 3. Hopefully all this is clear. You've been running this, so this should be all straightforward to you. Now, before you begin, again, like everything else, you're inside of your cloud console, which you're seeing right now. Me at you are also, started your cloud shell, you're inside cloud editor and things of that nature, right? So I'm just assuming that you have all of your stuff, in place. So am I okay on this? You set up your project ID. Make sure, in my project here, the G Cloud APIs, or G Cloud, let me call it the Google Cloud APIs that are necessary for the project have been enabled, but the ones that are required over here are given to you. Some of them might be a little additional, don't worry about it, could be a case from the other labs, but just ensure that you set these necessary variables, you set the project, which is very important, and you enable the API. So is everything looking good before we go to the cloud function implementation? Step 5. Shall we wait? Is everyone fine? Okay, we got quite a few folks saying, okay, so we are on the next step. So again, the way you would want to do is that we are creating I would say, a sample application. In this case, it's a sample cloud function, Java based, etc., etc. So follow these steps step by step. For me, I've kind of done it, but the way you would want to do this is obviously I can sign in over here. Let me clear a few things so my screen looks a lot neater. So just make sure that you are logged in into the console, and let's close all of these things also. So if you click over here, you see this, it gets you whether you want to create a new application, then it's a cloud functions one that we want, and it's Java. I'll just wait here, just showing you the steps that it's telling you. Create the new function, new application, cloud code, create, of course, here it's giving you in a slightly different way, but either way you could do that. Create the cloud function. It obviously generates a default one for you. Give it any name that you would like. And let's make sure that we are all on the Explorer with the files open. This is not the final code. Obviously, we're going to be getting it from the GitHub link, which you're seeing down. But so far, are we okay on this, where we are? So you've created the cloud function project. You've got a default pom.xml. You've got a default hello world.java, which may not necessarily be the final one, right? So once you're there, just see the steps that are clearly mentioned in step 6 and step 7. There is an associated, a repository for this particular lab, which you can open up from this step 6 repository link. I've opened it over here. So this should take you to, so basically if I go back to the root of this, obviously there's the whole README and everything, but you see that there is an updated pom.xml also, which you need to take from here. So take this entire pom.xml and put that in the, so I'll just open up my thing also. So Gemini function calling, I'll just close this. This is the project that's created. So this pom.xml, which you see, let me minimize these things a bit. Okay, just make sure that you take this pom.xml, take it from the repository. Just take the whole thing and copy that. This has all the dependencies. For those of you who don't know the Maven Java world, This is not just similar to a requirements.txt or your, the npm dependencies or anything of that sort. In Java world, we are specifying some external libraries, especially the Google Cloud Vertex AI. We are also going to be parsing out the JSON out there in Java, and plus we're using Cloud Functions. So there's a functions framework API. So these jar files or the dependencies we are specifying over here. Similarly, in this step over here, it's not just POM, but even the main file, right? Just take it, please, from this link that's given in step number 7. Just copy this whole code. We'll go through this code. It will become clearer, and then you can deploy and run it. It should do its work. So please take the source code for pom.xml as well as the hello world.java and copy it into the respective folders that you see over here. Let me know when you're done. Do not run the next step for now. This is what the step number 5 is. Step number 6 is about still understanding what's going on. In step 7, you'll get a chance to deploy. Just give about 5 minutes, 10 minutes here. I'll just take you to the code so you know what the code is about. Conceptually, I think you know where we are going with this, but let's go to the code and then you can do a deploy and test on your own. So I'm going to go back to the editor out here, and I'm in the same project which I've generated and copied those 2 files. So just focus on the single file that's there, which is hello world.java. Now, imports and all, don't worry, but you see, okay, sorry. One thing is, let me go back. I think, oops, what did I do? Where was I? Yeah. So on implement this whole thing, where were we? I'm just trying to find out where the key thing is before you begin. And implement the cloud function. Sorry. So step 7, sorry, I just forgot this key thing. One is, of course, you copy the POM and hello world Java, but there is a variable called API key. And this is basically, a key we need to the geolocation Google Maps API so that you are able to then make the calls. And this requires a key just like any other API key, but you need to go and get it. So you see the link over here for geocoding API. So if you just click that link, ideally it will take you to some creating API keys. Maybe you can stick to the console part instead of SDK, whichever way you're comfortable. But if you're comfortable with console, just go to the credentials page over there. And it should open up the same thing. Select that particular GCP project, and you will see that key credentials page comes up. Just click on create credentials. You'll see API key, and you'll just see an API key getting created. Just copy that key, whatever you see over here, and once that's copied, you can come back. Oops, I will just reload this. Sorry. Give me a minute or two. It got disconnected. So you will notice then that for those of you whose connectivity is still good, you can just copy that credentials key that you got and put that in hello world.java. You will see a code line for that. For the moment, I can just go to the GitHub one also while that is coming up, so that we don't lose time. So this is the same hello world.java which you have pasted out here, and you can see here there are a few things that it's telling you to do in the main thing. So this is my cloud function, and basically the thing that you need to set up is the API key that you see over here. So that's required. So just go and put in your API key out there. This is obviously the geocoding API endpoint. Don't worry about that. That's the standard one. So that's the API key there. Now, if you see over here, right, the function when it's invoked, basically, before we get down to the parsing of the JSON, if you are going to be running it, please update it with your specific project ID also. So if I go, oops, what happened? Not yet. Let's refresh this. I'll go back to the GitHub thing only. So just make sure that you put in your API key and you also update your project ID. The model we have set right now to 1.04. You could even try the 1.5 if you want. Now, if I go back to the lab, you will see that in deploy and test, don't run this right now, I'm just showing you. In Google Cloud Functions call, you find that we are passing actually this JSON to it, to the Cloud Function. So basically the Cloud Function, the first thing it needs to do is to basically take this JSON, basically decode it and get back the latitude and longitude from it. So that's what's happening in the first part of the code that you see over here. So that's line number 74, which I'm showing here, that it says, hey, just, from the request, just input stream reader, just get the JSON. Once you get the JSON, it's getting the calls thing, which is, again, if I show you, that's the calls. It's like an array of arrays. So the calls of 0 will give you that element, and then the 0 of that. So that's what it is doing. It's getting the calls, it's getting the first part, and then it's taking the first element of it and just doing a few magical things with strings out here, so that what you have is basically a value that looks like this, right over here. And see, that's the prompt that we are constructing on this line. That's pretty much what it is. You passed in a JSON, we extracted out the lat, longitude, and we are creating this prompt that says, tell me what's the address for this lat long value. This is what is going to be sent to the, what you call, the model. And obviously it makes this call called call API, and then whatever result it gets back, it's going to then print out that value for you. So this is fair enough. Let's see what's happening now in this call API, because that's pretty much where the magic is happening. So in call API, you've basically, the first thing you're doing is you're initializing the Vertex AI project with the project ID and the location that it is in. Now, as we said, the first thing you need to do is define the tool, define the function. So that's what we are doing. We are saying, this is my one function. You could possibly have many also, but you see what's happening here. This is an open API spec, the way we are defining the function, of course, via Java code, that we are saying its name is get address, its description is so and so. Here are the parameters. It takes a lat long, it must be a string separated by comma, right? That's what we are passing. And we are saying it's also required. That's it. Then we are building out this tool, and to this tool, we have currently only one function. We could have had many, but what we have done is we have created now this tool, which has this particular function information. Next step in 120 onwards is standard model being instantiated, but you see one difference. We are also setting the tools, right? That we are telling the model that, by the way, it's not just the core, model, which is Gemini Pro that you see over here, but we are also telling you, call API over here, we're going down. We are also telling you that you should use these tools if they make sense. So that's pretty much how we instantiate the model, and we are doing a generate content. So we are just giving our prompt, as is to the model. So it's getting back a response from it, and see, this is the first thing it's doing. In the response, is the model telling us to invoke a function, right? Because if it is able to answer, there'll be no function call. This return will not be true. So once it says that, hey, there's a function call to be invoked, the next few things is nothing but saying, okay, get me what function call I need to invoke. It's pretty much like a, if think about reflection, right? How you have reflection in some of these languages where it looks at the metadata, and it's a pretty it feels a bit abstract when you read this code, but you're doing nothing but actually creating a function call. You're finding out what's the function I need to call, what are the arguments it has. For each of the arguments, I'm going to go through it one by one, create it and so on. And then what I'm going to do is, see, I'm now actually invoking the API key. The API. So I told you the model will just tell you what's the function to invoke. The onus on finding out what the function is, mapping it to the real world, in which case here, we're actually calling out to the, the Geo API, the API string which was there, right? The whole maps, google.com in the first place, this part, right? So that's what we are actually doing out here. and then we make an HTTP request ourselves to it. We get back the response from it, right? So this is nothing but just getting back the formatted response from the geolocation API. This is nothing to do with our model or anything. It's just we're making an external call, getting back the data. Once that's done, now it's up to us what we want to do. We can give back the data to the model and say you answer it yourself, or if you want some additional formatting to be done, which is what it's doing here, it's creating a new prompt altogether. It says, hey, now you are an so and so address standardizer. Your job is to do give us an address in JSON format and containing the following maybe key metadata like address or area and city and zip code and things like that, right? And remember, response can be whatever, empty or none. So then it's nothing but just invoking the model again on our own. So we're just saying here is from a function response we got something, but now we're combining it again, and final response we're again doing the same thing. This time we're not passing any tools because this is our own little formatting we are trying to do over here. Generate the content, it gets back the data, and we return back the data, which then goes back over there. So that's pretty much what it is. So if you actually go and invoke it, you're going to be not just making a geolocation call behind the scenes, but you're also going to go back to the model again and tell it to format as some kind of a JSON thing. So here I am. I'll just maybe go back to the Gemini function calling, and here, right, the main dot Java whatever, sorry, hello world dot Java, which was there. So if I just I've deployed it as a function, so that's pretty much what it is. So when I actually invoke it, it should ideally be doing all that magic of behind the scenes, invoking the API, formatting it into a JSON, and so on. So I've kind of just sped with step number 7, I would say. See, now it's actually got there and it's given you back some kind of data for that information, right? So what I would say is in the lab, this is hopefully the whole understanding part of it, which is we gave a prompt, we specified what the function is, then we sort of orchestrated it with Gemini, which is we gave all the tools to the model, which said go ahead and generate it. And then whatever it gave back, right? See, it gave back a function call to say, no, you need to call now something with this lat long. So we are then invoking the API, the geolocation API on our own over here. And finally, we get back a response from the model again by giving it and saying, hey, you are an AI address standardizer, so and so, get me back the data. And then you'll probably get a JSON formatted response. So this is how it kind of works. It's like a back and forth kind of a thing. You use the LLM more for orchestration and mapping to your tools. So what I would suggest to you is just if you're already there at that place, go to the Cloud Shell terminal. You could pretty much either you go in that directory itself if you already copied it, that should work too. Or step 2 is just saying if you've not created the project. If you already created it, simply then kind of go ahead, go to that folder where which you saw me also do, where you clone the whole repository, and then first do a deploy of the function. This should take 2 minutes or 3 minutes or so. And as you can see in the cloud functions, all we are doing is we are specifying it's a Java runtime. The source is the current directory. Entry point, we are giving the entire whole package and the class name. And trigger is HTTP because we just trigger it directly. And once it's deployed successfully, you will get a URL format which you'll see in your thing. Your project ID will be the specific one. Simply then do a gcloud functions call with some sample lat long, and you should get back some data. So let's see. I mean, go ahead and start doing that. We'll wait a few minutes, maybe a show of hands. Start deploying the function. That particular thing is over here. Maybe I could also start doing it again and see what happens. So as you can see here, I've done the same, though I've deployed it, it's okay. It's like if I have to do any changes, I would have done the same command. So I'm just doing it again. So you will see a lot of things happening. It obviously takes the whole code, uploads it, starts a build, puts that, it's generation 2. So it's like running as containers behind the scenes. It will push that in the artifact registry. If you've done Cloud Run, this should start looking familiar because Cloud Functions version 2 or Gen 2 is based on Cloud Run. This takes a while. And once everything is fine, you should be able to see the exact URL that it has deployed to. You can even use the G Cloud console, sorry, the Google Cloud Console. Maybe go to Cloud Functions, from your main menu, and see it out there too, if you like. Sorry, I'll not get out of this for now. I'll just stay here. Anyone has been successfully able to deploy it so far? Okay. Those of you who are successful deploying it, feel free to, do the step 4 in this step 7, which is to test out the Cloud Function. So this is just a shortcut way. Instead of the whole URL, you can use G Cloud Functions call itself. Use the same function name which you use for deploying, which region, whatever. And data, be careful, right? Be clear. Just copy paste or be a bit careful because it's parsing out that whole thing, and then you should get some kind of a response. So in my case here also, as you can see, it's succeeded, and this is the actual the URL of the function. This is Gen 2. So the URL that you see is over here. Don't get confused with maybe this other one, which is behind the scenes Cloud Run application. So again, I can always do the function calling on this. It should call the, not function calling, invoking the Cloud Functions, and that should do too. Oh, I even got a response sometimes. I'm unable to do this. Address is empty. So that's the world of LLMs. Let's see what happens. Able to get or not. Empty ones. Not good. It's quite weird at times.
Romin, is your API key returning the right address? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I'll need to see what I'm doing because that code was put a while back. But let's see if anyone else is getting some responses, similar ones. Yeah, it's going a bit empty. I'll have to check what's there in my key. Is it valid, deleted? Don't know. Yeah, because I do clear up the keys. So yeah, see, if it's not working, then probably it's going to try to answer it in some way, which is what we are possibly seeing here. Yeah. Okay. Anyone has been successful running a few things? Don't worry about my output. My key is not proper. So that's why the, what you call, the response is not really there. And that's what we are passing to the LLM, and it's getting confused and saying, I don't know how to format it or something like that. So don't worry about it. But that's the other thing, right? Maybe that's the place you could possibly improve your code. That if I don't get a response, maybe I need to give another kind of a response back to the LLM to say could not fetch it, maybe return it back saying could not get the answer. So it's a little better than other than what you're seeing. It's fine. Okay. We can wait a bit while others are still doing it. At the same time, I think in terms of the lab, you should have got a response. And yeah, it's pretty much the last step in case, not that Cloud Functions are being invoked every now and then, but I would suggest you could either delete off those resources, even if the project is something that you don't need, you could do that. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm getting some responses, so that's good. Yeah, I think in terms of, I think the lab and presentation, that's pretty much what we had. It's a powerful feature, cloud, function calling. It helps you to at least connect it. So if you've got some APIs of your own, think about it, right? How you could possibly modify that code to make, anyone ask questions of an LLM, which then knows which possibly, agents or tools or functions it can call of your own. And then you can call it, give back the response, and you'll be able to ask a much more wider range of questions than what the API allows you to.
Also for result submission, Roman, if you can go to step 7, deploy and test.
Yeah.
In step 7, the last part, where you see the following is a response for a random sample prompt. So the part where it says replies till the end, so that is what you want to submit as result. So let me just show you now. So make sure that you just have that particular section. One sec. Not the following is a response for a random sample prompt, just the part where it has the replies, right? From whatever Roman is highlighted. So that should be your screenshot for this particular session. I see some of you folks have got deployment errors and stuff. So for deployment error, just you'll have to go to the logs and see what exactly is the problem. One of you did not have pom.xml, I think. Make sure when you're if you're cloning it, make sure all the files are there. If you're not cloning it, if you're bootstrapping that application from the scratch, make sure you are in the right folder when you're trying to deploy that for cloud function, right? There is a CD step in step 7, which Roman has right now, right? Point 2, if you see CD Gemini function calling. So if you missed it, then you probably will get that missing form.xml error. So make sure you have all the steps completed.
So do we need to be on the hello world on .java file and then run that function gcloud functions deploy?
Yes, just follow the code lab. There is the steps in the code lab and the ones that Roman went through right now.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Rajiv, you got the result. Perfect. So, Roman, did you have any closing comments? Are there any thoughts that you want to share? Or if there's a couple of questions, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah, I can take in the questions now. Yeah, I'm done from my side. In terms of the content, at least. Yeah. I can take in questions.
There's a question that says, what do we have to do in step 6? Step 6, Roman, understanding.
Step 6 is more around understanding. So basically, whatever be the code that you have, so this is the code that was told to put in the hello world or Java, the whole function calling code. So step 6 is pretty much just explaining it to you. Nothing you have to specifically take action on. It's more from your understanding that what's happening in case you want to understand them.
Yeah. And a lot of you are asking about result screenshot. Go to step 7 in the code lab, deploy and test. The last part, which Roman has in his screen right now, highlighted. So that is the part of screenshot that you need to upload for season 6, session 5, step 7. This part is what you need to upload. If the app is giving any error, just try and submit the request intervention method, which has a form submission. I know that one of you had initially asked that you need the last 5 minutes because the app is not accepting your result screenshots. That's unlikely because we've got at least more than 95% submissions through the app this time. Only very few are there in forms. So I'm hoping the It's relaxed a bit in the season. It's not even comparing the words in the screenshot. So basically, it is only saying if the context is accurate. So make sure that you try it a couple of times. If it's not accepting the first time, give it a few minutes and then try uploading your screenshot again. If after 3 times it's not accepting, then it's on to something. Just submit it through a form. For those who are submitting results through the form, the score will be updated only on 30th. Others who submit through the app will see it up to date as and when you submit. Yeah. Screenshot should be in JPG format. Any other question? Last question. Deployment errors and cloud run or cloud function errors. If it's deployed successfully, but then failing at runtime, you will have to check the logs. Roman, can you open the logs, cloud logging for Log Explorer link? Yeah, just go to Google Cloud Console. In the search bar, search for logs. You will see Log Explorer. And then you should be able to search the service, or you can just directly jump to now to see if there is any runtime error.
Yeah, you should be able to see some errors here. You can just filter down. So what I did is, if you're in logs, you might see it, too much of noise happening. So just go to these log fields here. Like if you don't see it, you might have toggled it in some way. So just toggle it on, and you can further filter. So see, I just zoomed down to cloud function. Then within cloud function, if there are more than one cloud functions, or a project ID, you can select that, further filters, and you can see it. Hopefully, you could even maybe, depending upon, I just see an information kind of a severity level. But if there is any error, you will see it in red and warnings and yellow, orange, whatever, and get that. Yeah. Ideally, it should all be here. Something should be there. If you don't see it, maybe just do a jump to now. Sometimes it takes a while. Obviously, you've done it recently, so you may not need to probably extend or edit it and further widen the time, I would say, interval that you want it across.
Yeah. And for Krishna, I think your project is not set. Just try restarting the shell and set your project. Configure gcloud config gcloud config set project ID, and then try to run make sure you're navigated inside the folder, and then try to deploy it, and then try to call this function.
Thank you. I'll do it.
Cool. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Roman. I mean, this was really, I got some messages on LinkedIn also, and also on chat, saying that this is a very interesting session, and some of you have mentioned that, have informed that to our leads as well. I see that. But the main thing is, Roman, you covered a lot of the design in the first few minutes, but still managed to complete it way ahead of time. So that is really not very common in most of our sessions. So that's really great. Thank you so much for that. And thanks everyone for attending, and thanks for repeat attendees. I really appreciate how involved you are and how engaged you are in Code Vipassana. And we'll make sure we'll continue to bring in the latest and greatest as far as we could in terms of concepts and services, as much as we can with the limited credits that we have. All right. And leads, as always, thank you so much for being there and then answering all the questions. And yeah, you're on point for every single question that we've had. You've almost always answered. So thank you again for staying this late in the night. And thanks, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Can you give me what is output you have to submit?
Sorry, come again.
What is the output? Like, what is the result to submit?
So in the code lab, go to step 7.
Okay.
Step 7. So just scroll down in the bottom of the page. Step 7, you will see the screenshot with replies, right? The response from Cloud Shell. That's what you need to submit. The
And
last part.
just submit in the like the link usually we submit.
The link is there you would have received an email, right?
Yeah.
So also tomorrow you'll receive. So if you want to submit it right now, let me just give you the link 1 second to submit the results. I just saw it in the chat. Someone had pinged.
Okay, just the output of the page, right? Like the results with the in the cloud editor, I have to in the terminal.
Okay, I just pinged the link to the app right now. 1 second, let me share my screen and show you what you need to submit in result. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
This part. This is the screenshot you need to submit, not this and all, just the replies from Cloud Shell Editor. You will see this in Cloud Shell Editor, right? When you run this query for the same Latin long or for any other Latin long, this is the part that you need to submit
Yeah.
as a JPEG.
Okay.
So that's about it. We are at time. Thank you everyone for an incredible session again. Thanks a lot, Roman. See you all on Monday. So you'll get the recording right after this. Not right after. It'll take some time to process. It's an hour long. Hour long video. So it'll take some time to process. But first thing tomorrow, you'll have the recording. You'll also have some new credits in case you've used up and you've not completed it and you didn't get an opportunity to complete all the steps and submit the results. You can always do it at your own time tomorrow or over the weekend. And we have another exciting session coming up on Monday. Let me just give you the name of the session in a bit. 1 second. So on June 17th, which is Monday, we have fine-tuning large language models. So how will you fine-tune models? So that's a Python session. I know there's a lot of ask, when are we doing Python? We have been doing some Python. So I think we've done one Java, one Python. It's been alternating. So this is the one on Monday is Python application for fine-tuning Gemini, or one of the models that we have in our LLM in Vertex AI. All right. So see you soon. See you on Monday. Really excited to see you all again.
And
Thank you.
like in result, I'm getting some features and things. Okay, right?
Come again.
In result, for some of the keys, I'm getting null value, just null.
All of it or some of the fields?
Some of them, some of the fields.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Thanks everyone. See you all on Monday at 8 p.m. Thank you, Roman. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, leads. Bye.
Okay.